Leyla and I will speak in English, okay? That's right. Leyla is born in Turkey and currently living in Belgium.
I was actually born in Belgium.
You were born in Belgium? Why does it say that you were born in Turkey?
I don't know.
You lived in Turkey for a while?
No.
Okay, that's all incorrect. So, of Turkish descent, born in Belgium, I actually met Leyla at the HISC, which is an academy in Gent, and it's an academy for young artists who are between, let's say, a master's degree or just after they finish their studies. And it's a place where candidates can stay for 2 years and given very beautiful studios. The first year a smaller studio, and the second year a larger studio. And I had the pleasure of lecturing at the HISC and visiting the HISC on a number of occasions. And was able to visit Leyla there and to see her work and to speak to her about her work. And what was interesting for me, I mean, she was one of the young artists who I was interested in immediately because she had a background in painting, but she was working now in sculpture. And the kind of sculpture that she was doing was often with materials that she would find almost maybe sometimes by chance, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But I thought that her ability to bring materials together was both intelligent and sensuous, and for me had a very strong relationship with landscape, but an urban landscape. For example, when I was looking at your sculptures, and the installations and images of her installations, to me it sometimes looked like a really beautiful construction site. So as if you're visiting literally a house being built or a building being taken apart and rebuilt, but somebody left something that looks poetic on the construction site, or the combination of materials does something almost magical, almost like if you came to a site like this, an industrial site, and you saw this arrangement of materials and form, you'd think, oh, this is a wonderful accident of not really nature, but of this process of construction. And to me, I thought that was quite apt in terms of her background in painting, and that she was taking this process of painting and applying it to a sculptural practice. And so after the visit, I thought a lot about Leyla's work, and I decided to invite her to do a residency here in the Kunstverein. And we agreed that she would come here and that it would be a sort of open, like a white, a blank slate, so to speak, that she could do whatever she wished in the space. Because I knew that she was going to go around Salzburg and find the elements of the exhibition and put together. So I literally had no idea what was going to happen in the space. We didn't actually speak about it too much. It was more a matter of trust that I thought, okay, Leyla's going to do something interesting in here. And of course, the results to me were very surprising. You can all come in this space, please come. Yeah. But I thought maybe I would just ask Leyla some questions for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then if you have some questions, you're welcome to ask as well, and then we'll try and wrap it up well before 7 o'clock. So first of all, Leyla, tell us maybe just in a general way how it is that you came to make the decisions about what you found, and maybe tell us a little bit about, you were saying it was difficult to actually find materials that you normally use, maybe because the nature of Salzburg itself has a different relationship to throwing things away or waste or rubbish, yeah?
Yeah. So actually when I arrived here,
I went around first the old city, and I noticed that it was very clean. So in Belgium, you always find containers and stuff. It's more open to find and collect things. And here, it was actually not. It was very organized, but I saw that there were some constructions going on. So I went to some construction sites and talked with the bouwleiter there and could take some stuff away. So it was a bit a different way of collecting materials, but I found quite a lot, also from private people I met and went to their place and had a look at their things. So I made a nice collection of materials, and then I started to work with the materials. So James didn't know what I was going to make, but I didn't know myself. So I started from the material, and it's the way I mostly work, like starting from the physical things. So not from a concept, but really from the material. So the material is a quite important thing when I start working, and here also the space, because I could work in the space. So these were my two starting points. Yeah, and then I started to combine materials, and in that process, I think I just see what happens when I put them together and react on that. By combining them, I'm looking for tensions or for different kinds of materials, and what I see, what happens, then I just react on that and start to construct something.
One thing that for me was always curious as well in speaking with you, both in Gent and then when you would check in during your residency, is that we'd only speak about the work in completely formal terms. We would never speak about anything personal, never speak about any kind of metaphorical associations. It was almost like those doors are closed, or like you mentioned, something conceptual. It was purely about this building, finding, constructing, building, sluicing things together. Do you want to tell us a little bit about maybe why that's important for you? That's a difficult question.
It's a difficult question, it is. I think it's just the way how I prefer to talk about it. It's
I suppose what I mean is that, is this not also part of the decision-making process itself? You know, that it's really an assembling, an assemblage. You're not trying to build a gesture or a remark about the city, or a remark about the space, or something about now, the time and now.
No. When I work, it's really about constructing something, and I just think in colors, in shapes, in combining, in the things that happen in that moment, on that place, with that material.
Yeah.
So.
And can you tell us a little bit about how you came to decide on making this trompe-l'oeil? Because actually I was completely surprised, maybe you've noticed as well, when you first come to the front entrance of the cabinet space, I was fooled by the trompe-l'oeil. That I believed it was a picture. And then how this related to the structure you built in here and the window as well on the back.
Yeah. So when I came in this space, I thought it was a really closed space. The windows were covered and there was not really a connection with outside. And I wanted to break that a bit open. So I wanted to make a link between when you come in, that you have already an inside in this space. And that was when I wanted to make a hole in the wall, actually. And then I also had the idea that it was nice to work with something, when you first see it, it looks like a 2D image when you come in from there. And when you walk around, you'd see actually the construction behind it. So I worked from two sides. I thought in a 2D image, and then from here more in a 3D image.
And then the decision around the window just came last,
Yeah.
was it? Yeah.
Well, I had it before already in mind that I had to make another opening somewhere. But I did it as last thing to also make the connection with the real outside. So that there is a link between when you come in, you come to this room, you have the connection with there, and then you also have the connection that your eye goes outside. So it's also kind of how the space functions then. How you look at a painting, it's also like your eye follows a certain way on a picture. I see it a bit like this in this room as well.
And can you tell us just a little bit about the treatment of the materials? Because except for the styrofoam that you covered with the clay, or with the plaster, that is, you almost never really do much with the materials, that you want to just place them, you're not painting them, you're not altering them so much, you might be cutting them apart and making assembling. But why is that important?
Well, I choose the materials because the way they are. So when I collect them, they already have the characteristics I want to use. And I try to paint things, but it always feels kind of forced to it. So I use color, but only if it's already in the material.
Yeah, because this is something that I noticed as well from the very beginning, looking at the work, that when the color comes in is something that you find. The only color that actually really appears are the smudges from wherever the styrofoam had come from, and then something underneath the plaster in the front, which is just near Renata. I think Renata and the people over here can only see it.
The orange one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if I use color, it's mostly because the material has it. And as you said, the smudges, that's more, it always has a reason why it's there. So when I build or construct things, mostly there is a reason why I do something. It can be to make it more stable or to connect it with something. I use clay also as a building material, so I think mostly in a very practical way. And color is another way of, it's not so practical, it's more something aesthetic. And that feels kind of forced to color something red, when there's not really a need to do that.
So like something impure? Impure?
Impure or forced.
Or contaminated?
Yeah.
Did you ever hear Frank Stella interviewed? Do you know the painter Frank Stella?
I know him, yes.
Has anybody ever heard Frank Stella being interviewed? So Frank Stella, American painter, abstract painter. The reason I'm bringing him up because he would do these paintings that would be a series of gestures to make an abstract form. And when he would speak about the paintings, he would talk quite like the way you speak about the work. He'd speak in a way that's literal and formal, and he would talk about the quality of the house paint. You know, he used house paint on the surface of his canvases. When he would talk about the painting, he would talk about the process of assembling it with putting the canvas over the stretcher, stapling the canvas into the stretcher, making the lines, checking the paint, going to the shop, buying the paint, and then people would begin to interview him more and more and would begin to say, so, but is this a little bit about the anxiety today in New York City? And I said, I don't know. I mean, if you see that, maybe do. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to take my paintbrush. I just bought a normal paintbrush in a hardware store, and I wanted to get really good paint and mix the paint to get the right color, and then to begin to make my paintings. And that's what I did. And that's all he would say. He would always talk like this, in a way that was so, how would you say, it's just so formal that he doesn't want anything else discussed, or he's not going to discuss anything else. Do you feel any kind of kinship with that? Does that seem comfortable to you?
Yes.
Or familiar to you?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay, so before we wrap it up, would anybody like to ask a question or two to Leyla about her installation? We didn't talk so much about any references to the city or the structure itself in the space as a architectural structure. But if anybody has any questions, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Bernhard.
I like this kind of work, but maybe you can tell us something about your meaning about this, the sense, deeper sense of this kind of formalism. Why is it necessary to do this kind of work nowadays?
Go ahead. Tell.
That's really. Actually, to be honest, it's not something you decide to do. It's something that grew from painting. And in painting, it was just, I think it's how I started to work very early, just by, from the material, building up an image, taking material away and put it back. And I don't feel that I have to how do you say it, justify why I'm doing it. I just think it's a way of working, and that's just what I do. Or maybe you can ask more specific
Of
about.
course, it's okay. Yeah?
Yeah, I think it's like in one sense it's a position. Yeah, it's a position, and it's also it's a form of discourse around the work, around materiality, around how a work could be approached, and in a way I think is kind of pure. So the answer was also quite in track with how you speak about it. So, yeah. Any other questions? Okay, great. Leyla, thank you and congratulations on your show.
Thank you.
I'm very happy to have you here. So yes, then we might have a few minutes, and it will be Stan Douglas will be giving a tour of his exhibition at 7 o'clock. So we'll see you all there. Vielen Dank. Yeah.
Thank you.